Welcome to Built-In Boost, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes at the DDS companies, where we're laying the foundation for tomorrow's infrastructure. In each episode, we bring you the real stories from the people who make it all happen, honoring everyone from the field to the front office. Join us as we explore their journeys, uncover the lessons they've learned, and show you how to build a rewarding career in the civil construction industry. If you're ready to learn from those who've built their success from the ground up, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
What's up, guys? It's Jordan Potter. Today's episode is hosted by Griffin Haley and Mike Fallat. They're sitting down with two guys who are solving some of the biggest headaches in construction. Brett and Jordan Hillstrom are the brothers behind Xeratec, a family-owned software company that's been building real solutions since 2003. They help construction teams simplify chaos with custom apps, streamline workflows, and tech that actually fits the field. From daily tasks to complex projects, Xeratec is making building easier, and this conversation is full of gold. I'm excited about this one, so let's get into it.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm your host, Griffin. I'm here joined with my co-host, DDS's own Mike Fallat.
Co-host today.
Mike, what's going on, man? What are we doing here today?
Happy to be here. We got a couple guys up from one South Carolina, another one the UP in Michigan, Jordan Hillstrom and Brett Hillstrom. We talked a lot today about software efficiencies, just overall construction industry, how rising tide can raise all ships, and we can get better in a lot of different ways. So excited to have these guys here to talk a little bit more about that with our team.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Without further ado, if you guys want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, no, thanks for having us on. I'm Brett Hillstrom, one of the leaders at a company called Xeratec. And what we do is we work with a lot of construction companies and companies in other industries to help them realize efficiencies through software.
Yeah, I'm Jordan Hillstrom. Couldn't tell I'm the younger. I mean, older.
They can't tell because they can't see you. But maybe we'll
better
record
looking
the next one.
Yeah, better looking brother here. So yeah, we work together. We yin and yang. It's fun because I'm on the people process side more often than not. Got years of experience in construction. And I've been just that natural disruptor by nature. I ask a lot of questions. Brett's got 20 plus years in software development, so he's got a lot more of the process and development skill sets. So we come at it from different angles, but it's been really fun to attack problems. And what I've come to realize is almost anybody can develop software, but it takes the right kind of team to understand what questions to ask, what rocks to turn over, and which people to work with internally to actually create the right solutions for the right problems.
There's one thing that you said, Jordan, earlier that stuck with me is you'll do a discovery phase, which is really an entry, and let's learn about what the problem we're trying to solve. And then once you get down to the objective and what success looks like and you define that, then you question, should we be doing this, right? And sometimes that answer is no. Sometimes you might be further ahead or further along than you think you are. And if the answer is no, then no foul, right? But if the answer is yes, at least you have a defined path, a goal line, and an alignment on the front end instead of just jumping in and going for it.
Absolutely. Well, an example of that could be is if you have a cool idea, let's say you're on a paper process for time cards and you want to innovate and get better, get smarter. Yeah, it makes sense. But if you don't have a culture around adopting technologies, maybe it's not a good season to do anything right now. Maybe work on the culture of implementation of innovation and tools. And then at some point, you'll get enough leaders that are bought in. Yeah. And then maybe consider doing that initiative.
Yeah, small tweaks.
Yeah.
Small tweaks. Maybe we kick it off with where we met.
Yeah.
Which was back in the fall now at the Dirt World Summit. Jordan and I ran into each other at a 5 a.m. workout led by some of the First Form guys. And we got to talking about what he did, what we did as a company. And it really evolved into, hey, let's get together and see if there's a synergy there.
Yeah.
And common ground.
I'm pretty sure I was trying to do push-ups and he looks over and said, dude, do you even know how to do push-ups?
Yeah, you've probably done way more push-ups than I have with your background, but
There's
But we both struggled through it.
Yeah, there's smart rangers and there's tough rangers. I was a little bit of the tough side.
That first forum, that was a pretty good workout then? They push you guys?
Yeah, so last year at the Dirt World Summit, it was Echelon Front and it was Jocko. And the first form guys were tough, but they were more lenient than Jocko.
I'm sure, yeah.
Because they didn't have the megaphone, they weren't yelling at you, and you didn't feel like you were going to get a gorilla to put an elbow in your neck if you paused. They were a little bit more lenient, but all in all, it was still, 5 a.m. in Texas.
Yeah, right.
And the humidity just chokes you out. So it was a good way to wake up and start the day.
Dude, to have hundreds of people there on a ODARC 30 doing some push-ups and running, whatever, that's just unreal, the culture of what's happening now. And this kind of this, what do you want to call it, new wave of leaders in construction is pretty cool.
Yeah, just the sheer fact of everyone being there and doing it.
Yeah,
I think was rewarding itself. And the guys that led it, that were leading the workout, I think one name was Mason and Austin. And Mason actually went on to, I think he placed first in Hydro X. That the summit that they do, I think it's running, it's rowing, it's a few different things, but it's a global competition, I'm pretty sure. And he placed. He was top of the leaderboard, so he was a longer haired individual.
Yeah.
But it was cool.
So what did you guys talk about? How'd you get on the topic of...
I think we started to talk about Samsara, which is our the tracking software that we use for our fleet, both for visual tracking, GPS tracking, performance tracking, and all that. And so I think we got on the subject of Samsara, and then that turned into a whole lot more, on what you guys do.
Yeah, and obviously we're at that conference because we don't dig holes or build pipes or anything like that. We're attempting to serve the industry from the other side of helping with process improvement and technology innovation. And so one of the things we're trying to learn now is finding leaders that are willing to be challenged and willing to ask questions together. Because I don't know your world like you do, right? So we went to that event to find leaders like Mike, just to be like, hey, we want to know more about your world. What are the things you care about? And so that was just trying to be more insightful with the questions we ask and, just what do you do? And trying to actually lean into that question. And ironically, you made a comment about you guys have tried custom software and it just didn't work. And that really got me going. And I want to know more. Why didn't that work? And it's tough because sometimes you wear the sales hat too hard, right? It's I'm gonna convince you that custom is right, but I'm starting to realize, getting a little bit older now.
See, I said that before I knew you were into custom software. I thought it was fleet software, and then we got to talking by the end, and I think you brought Brett over.
He's the closer, yeah.
That was funny.
How do you guys usually identify
males typically?
That's important.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, that's
a step in the right direction.
How does something like that get identified to you, or how do you find these companies that may be lacking in some of that technology or those systems in place? Or is it something where they reach out to you, or how would they know you exist or something like your company exists?
That's a good question. There's a mixture of both. Generally, though, we're at a conference somewhere where people are generally looking to be better, and that's where you're going to find like-minded companies, like-minded people, good leaders. The people who aren't looking to get better are staying home. They're not trying to see what else is out there. They're not trying to see a different way of doing things. So that's where we want to go, is where are the like-minded people? And that's where we find them.
Very nice.
Yeah, I'd support that. And it's funny when you go to those conferences, you kind of feel like you're home. You're like, all right, these are my people. They understand. And I have this inherent fear of getting left behind. I think it is in the industry, just in total. It's like, if we're not getting better, someone else is out there getting better. And now we're going to be 2 steps behind or 3 steps behind. So it's got to be a pretty relentless pursuit of always wanting to take the next step, chase the next finish line that you're never going to reach. But those conferences, specifically Dirt World, some of the first forum stuff, that's just full of those people. And the cool part is I didn't meet anybody that's from somewhere near us. And it's probably the same as everybody else, so you don't feel threatened, like it's competition or anything like that. And even if there was people from around here, everyone's there for the right reasons.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're working against each other; you're working with each other, which is a cool thing.
No, that one was unique too because there's a lot of conferences you go to, like ConAg, right? It's a cool show, a lot of cool stuff to see. But the way I've heard it said was it's adult trick or treating.
Right.
A lot of guys looking for an excuse to go party and then come and look at some show stuff and get some cool swag.
Yeah.
But that specific event, I was really blown away with the mindset of, hey, this is more to elevate everybody, right? educate us on what's possible on the workforce and process improvement, on all these kind of things. And it drove those kind of people that are like, for instance, I've had conversations with people like, I didn't go, I couldn't pencil in the ROI. Like ripples of impact, which ROI are you going for? It's like those leaders that are recognizing, you can't always line up the dollars and cents to that specific show. This is a 5-10 year play sometimes, but I'm already seeing ripple effect of companies seeing the improvement in their company and their people. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's easy to get lost in that, like the con expos. We've never been interested in those kind of events. And I use a real simple measurement of, if I go there, can I take something back that I can then give to our team and have it be useful to them? The Dirt World events that I've been to, we've pulled back a lot of information, and we've put on our own little mini events, to some of the leaders here at DDS through those experiences. If you're going to take the time away as a leader and go do that, dedicate your time with having a team that can't necessarily do that or doesn't have that opportunity, you better damn sure bring something back that you can add value to their life with.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we were sitting in, I think it was Marcus Sheridan. Is it Sheridan?
Yeah, Marcus Sheridan.
And he was obviously speaking more to the marketing and the sales part that I was like, and that's what I do oftentimes. And he had mentioned something about, being willing to tell the story that no one else is willing to tell. Say the things that people want to hear that no one else is saying. And you guys are doing that. I'm noticing in conversations, and like in that, literally, he's not even done. And I'm like, I'm hiring a marketing director. I went on Facebook during that chat and literally put, just to kind of get some feelers out there.
Yeah.
I put out a Facebook post in my community, like 4 or 5 different pages. Like, I'm looking for a marketing guy or person, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we hired one.
Oh, cool.
Like his name is Chandler. He's phenomenal. He's from a church.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just dynamite of a guy, but he's pushing us now already.
Cool. Yeah.
Like you guys do great work, but you suck at selling yourselves. You don't tell the story. You don't come across externally polished. Like we don't want to brag on ourselves. We like to work with good people and do good work.
Tell what you do.
Yeah.
It's funny how you get those influencers on the team that you never knew you needed until you have them. And then it's like, oh man, I wish you did this 5 years ago.
Yeah.
When you guys are rolling into a company, how does that look? Is it you guys doing a lot of specific software, or is there some generality between a lot of different companies that you can kind of roll one out? What does that kind of look like?
I think it's case by case basis. Generally, there's a problem that a company has. Earlier we talked about some of the data collection you guys need to do in the field. And it might take a foreman an hour and a half to go through this after he does a full day of work. That's not necessarily completely a software problem, but you can solve the problem with different software. So that's just one very specific use case. And that's where like custom comes into play. It's hard to wrap all of that data you need into one application that you can buy off the shelf, because they're all bringing data to different systems. And, and especially if you're going across industries, if manufacturing, the needs are way different.
Right.
But even in construction, even the data you need to collect, depending on what type of construction you're doing, if you're a civil contractor or if you're, laying pipe for delivery and distribution of fuel, it's all different. And that's where we'll have to come in. We need to definitely understand your problem, understand what you're working through. And most of what we do isn't really the main ERP systems. We do what the main ERP systems are built to do. Main ERP systems are built for the world. You've got a very, very specific application of your business, where accounting, generally, you've got a P&L. Every business has a P&L. But every other business doesn't lay pipe like you guys would. So that's where we would come in, help you guys understand, maybe it's daily reports that are very specific to your business. Well, maybe there's a different way to ingest that information, and maybe it integrates with your ERP. Maybe you take your time information from that, and you no longer have to have a different time card system, as an example.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it almost doesn't fit to reference Xeratec as a software company, because you guys are problem solvers. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
You're using software to solve those problems, but when you start with, let's identify all the pain points, let's identify the waste, let's line it all up on a chart, and then become more efficient in the process, you're solving problems, and the software is the way to do that. But it's exciting what you guys are doing. It's a new way of thinking.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of interesting that you bring that up. And our founding story is actually incredible. So this is a second generational family business, which isn't super common for software businesses. And so our father, Steve, he started Xeratec in 2003, but really it started long before then. So he was an 18-year-old living in the UP. There's no jobs in the UP. He moved between Milwaukee and Illinois. He was working in a warehouse, just stocking shelves. And the business he was working for only had a few thousand items in the warehouse. They got bought by a bigger company, so they went from a few thousand items to a few 100,000 items overnight. And not only that, they started building medical kits. So just that warehouse need is a lot bigger. Do you know how they used to track the inventory?
Let me guess, a checklist
No,
on a yellow pad.
It was a room about the size of this, full of filing cabinets with punch cards.
Oh boy.
There's no software. This was the 80s. So just being an innovator, a problem solver, and I think it's genetic in our family. He went and bought himself a computer, one of those suitcase computers.
He stole that from another department.
Try not to get him in trouble.
Statute of limitations, right?
Hashtag real talk with Jordan.
Hopefully that's not genetic too.
What is it, the 5th degree? I forget what. Anyway, but he bought himself one of those programming for dummies books. I don't remember the exact language he built this in, maybe Fox Pro or something more ancient that I've never had to touch. But he built the warehouse management system, and he convinced them to adopt it.
Wow.
And that's actually how he got his start. Because he was not, was not educated. He wasn't through college. And the company took notice and like, well, hey, can you build this for me too? Sure, absolutely. And he kept doing that. And it actually got to the point where they forced him to make a decision. You're going to either stay blue collar or you got to come white collar. But, through the 80s, if you're going to be white collar, if you don't have, a bachelor's or master's degree, forget about it.
And a pen protector too. He didn't have that.
No, you have to have a pen protector.
Yep.
He did have the nice glasses that
he did
kind of fit the mold for it. But they actually sent him through college, and I personally went through Jordan and I both went to his college graduation.
Yeah.
Probably had 7 kids by then.
At least, yeah.
But that's really the founding of, our company now, and it's that same problem solving innovation is still there.
Yeah.
Because you see, technology is going to always change, right? Like software solutions are going to come and go. People will always be the one constant. So like if you meet people where they're at, every company has people and every company has a journey. So that journey has to do with people and technology evolution. So we're all going through a digital transformation process. So we've recognized we can't do the one size fits all approach. It doesn't work. Because you guys have ideas that are going to keep you guys pushing forward in your industry, in your market. Like I heard some amazing ideas today. I'm like, these are brilliant. But that's what's going to keep you guys on the edge and keep you growing and winning in this market. So if we can meet you where you're at and understand your actual problems, not like generically ambiguous, but like specifically right now, let's solve for those equations appropriately, and it'll help you win right now. Not in 3 years, but like we can get a product in your hands within 3 months, start testing it. It's rolled out in 5 months. And that's what's kind of cool about being agile, being nimble to your problems, not having to have a corporate structure of this massive ERP implementation. It's like, no, that's not going to solve your problems. Not all the time, anyhow.
And here you guys are. He started in 2004, you said?
Yeah, 2003.
Yeah. Okay. Decades later, and as you were telling that story, I couldn't stop thinking about a culture of ownership that he has. He's working in a storeroom and just won't accept that this is the way we're going to do things. I'm going to go change it. I'm not going to wait for somebody to come do it. I'm going to go do it myself. And still today, you guys probably feel it, but I can sense it. You're owning it. You're owning how you can add value. Know that it's important that's where it starts and that's where it ends. You're not just selling a product. You're selling the value that you add.
It's almost like you went on our website and stole our core value.
Oh, is that one of them? Well, it's one of ours too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. It sounds like it was, born out of necessity, and then you just keep driving that same factor home.
Well, he had 4 kids, at least at that point. He's probably 18 or 19,
Right.
He wasn't getting paid enough.
Yeah.
No, it really is. For us, obviously we want to make a paycheck, right? But we actually love what we do. We love solving problems for people. And that's where construction is really kind of where our hearts are at, because a lot of industries, there's a lot of bigger corporate mentality of just kind of the numbers game. Like the face value, you see the news or the ads, and it's all about the people and the culture. But behind the scenes, it's pretty toxic and rough. Whereas construction, a lot of the blue collar trades, like people, like they're real.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm seeing leaders in our generation, maybe not prior to, but in our generation are like recognizing the need to grow our people, to infuse, like not just go out there and dig some holes, but like let's grow you as a person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I want to go home at night and like actually like feel like I did a good thing for society.
Yeah.
Not just go and make some money. So this is where I'm like, next 20 years is where we're at.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was really young, somebody told me once when I was figuring out what path I'm going to take in life is go get a job that you can't be replaced. Right. So that's what attracted me to construction. And that's a pretty surface level reason to go get into it. But now that I'm into it, and I didn't know this at the time, it's just such a special industry, because when you think about the people and what they're doing and what we're building and how critical it is to people's lives every day, the infrastructure, water, gas, sewer, all that, and then the pride that everybody still has in what they're doing every day, you don't find that everywhere. I've never forgotten that not every industry has the luxury of having pride in the work that they do and being able to show something for it. And the people involved, they're the best people that you'll ever meet. I mean, when you think about salt of the earth, hardworking guys and girls of this country that have built this country to what it is, we're right here. Like, this is it. And we talk about it a lot as a group. No one else is coming to do it. No one's coming to save us. We're either going to figure out a way to do it together, or it's not going to get done. And guess what? It can't not get done, because people need gas. They need water. They need these things to live. So construction is it's just a cool process to watch.
You know what's interesting? So like if you haven't been in like, let's say doing ditch work or trench work, whatever, and it's, 30 degrees and raining and you got some deadlines to hit, you're freezing cold, you haven't eaten for hours. The worse things get, like the more fun things get. The morale goes up. And it's hard to explain until you experience that.
Yeah.
But once you do it once, you're like, you just almost get addicted to that.
Yeah.
So there's something about the type of person that gets drawn to it that, like, the harder things get, the more you want to just go. So go back to ownership. There's something inherent about that personality.
Yeah.
And that's something you don't find in a lot of industries.
And you're not doing it alone. You're doing it as a team.
Exactly.
So those tough times, the hard times, they build character, they build camaraderie. And we just talked about this earlier. It's not the good times you remember. Those are easy. It's the hard times. It's doing the hard things together that really build a bond, build character, and build people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that team will push a bad crew into a good crew pretty quick. Sure. It takes really one guy to change that whole ethos, you know?
And you can look at those situations in two ways. You can complain about it, and you can be a victim about it. Yeah. Or you can be like, no, we're here because we're supposed to be here. Yeah. Because we're the ones that are taking on the hard tasks. We're the ones that they put put out there to take it on. It's perspective.
They're getting it,
You don't have to be here. You get to be here.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And going back to what you're saying about our current leadership and how their culture is, I think that was also born out of necessity. Especially in our industry now, some guys that we're pulling in younger, 18, 19 years old, they don't really have the background like maybe you and I and, some of the older generation grew up on, where they had to work, at 12, 14 years old. This may be their first job outside of high school, and that leadership and teaching that next generation has to come from somebody. And, as we do have a training department here, it's really been our leaders in the field that have kind of stepped up and taken that pride to, show them what they do and how well they do it, and what that looks like,
Absolutely. And I'm not trying to like crap on the prior generation. Like, I think they've given us some phenomenal shoulders to stand on, right? So like, I have the most respect for our prior generations, absolutely. But I think, there's a saying that says, where goes the head, there goes the organization. And a comment I heard from Patrick today talking about some stuff. And for the people that don't know, he's a CPA by trade. And he's wearing, cowboy boots, blue jeans, nice DDS vest, which I got to ask where you guys get those.
Oh, yeah, we got some.
So I can hook you up.
Yeah, but his mentality, that was so awesome. See, and I'll give some backstory to why this is so impactful for me. I'm on like the white collar, like I'm in air quotes right now, like the white collar side of construction now, which kind of sucks because I love getting my hands dirty and I've got calluses right now because of CrossFit. But that being said, I miss that side of the fence. I miss going out in the field, but I feel like my impact, the God-given gift I've been given, is more impactful here. Anyways, I go to a lot of companies. We talk to both sides in the field and the office, and there seems to be a pretty big divide between the office and the field. And Patrick said something like, it almost moved me to tears. Like I heard something and it really hurt me because so many companies miss that. He's like, I go to the field and I go and see what people are doing. I'm actually working with them. And he's like, I spent more time in the field for a duration than in the office. But he's an office guy. But he understands who they are, what they look like, what they talk like,
Right.
what they deal with. And so he mentioned, he's like, so when something goes sideways and I have to question it, I'm not questioning them anymore. I understand what they're going through now. So he's like, I've walked a minute in their shoes and I've got empathy for their position now. And I'm like, man alive, that's so strong. And it's a testament to the leadership here. And again, it's not an accident. You don't hire those kind of people on accident.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. I know he's been, I mean, even down to taking 7071 for our NGA gas guys. He'll go out and take that test, something that he doesn't need to do, but just to get into that mindset of, all right, what's the first week at DDS look like for these guys before they even step foot into the field?
What is NGA? I'm sure people have no idea what that means.
So those are some of our OQs. So for
what are OQs? Sorry.
Operational
Operator qualifications.
operator qualifications.
Okay.
Which they call them operator qualifications. It's not really for an operator of equipment. It's really for an operator of the skills.
Sure.
So 95% of it is all handwork,
Okay.
not operator work.
Yeah,
So
it
that's
takes a
what they call
different breed now. So we run, National Fuel, what's considered NGA, and then NGC or National Grid. So they're all different testing requirements, but basically even to step foot on one of our job sites, you'll need to go through our training in the first week, 2 days, one day on 70, the next day on 71, and then a review. And then you go to a secure testing facility, test out, make sure you pass it. The 71 is a critical AOC, which just means there's a question on there that if you get it wrong in the field, it'll be a catastrophe, whether that's a main blow or having any gouges in the pipe or anything like that. So pretty much everything we do here on the gas side specifically has different OQs associated with it.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different coming from like me. I'm a civil background kind of guy. It was you learn on the fly rather than take a test on it. So that's what's unique about us too, is when we're looking out into recruiting that next generation, it's, hey, you are coming to construction, but don't put those test taking skills away yet, because you're still going to need it prevalently, for
Yeah,
sure.
You will. Back to Patrick. He's a Renaissance man. He really is.
For sure.
But a hell of a guy. He just yearns to learn constantly, all the time, no matter what it is. He's always been that way since day one. And he's a sommelier too. I don't know if you knew that. Probably not. So he's a sommelier. He'll tell you about wine. He'll go out there in a construction project. He'll tell you about pipeline. He's at dance with his daughters. Like, he's a great dad, great husband. He's just a hell of a guy. But I say that because we're our people. Like, that's all we have at the end of the day is people. And without that, we're just a pile of iron and rubber. But you got to have the right people in the right seats that are working for the same mission and they want to do it together. If you're going to have success, be something that becomes more of a continuous thing.
I would question a couple of things, though, because he was a goalie playing hockey. Goalies take hockey pucks at like 90 miles per hour to the head, so questionable judgment skills.
You wouldn't be able to tell that today.
Yeah, brain damage in a good way, right?
There's sometimes he gets way off, and I'm like, dude, you lost me like 15 minutes ago, but I just let you go because you were on a roll. Yeah, but he's smart as heck. He's smart as heck. But that's what it's about: is surround yourself with people smarter than you.
Absolutely.
That's what
no
builds the
doubt.
team out.
No doubt.
Brett, your background, you've been in software for 20 years. You're both leading this company now, but give us a little insight and where you started.
Yeah. So I actually didn't really have a plan to get into software. I was in high school. We just moved to Michigan. Really, I was planning on following my brothers into the Army. My freshman year of high school, I took a puck to the back of the head. I'm a hockey player too. Wrecked all my hearing on my left side and probably made a few screws become loose. But really, that took the path of the Army out. Mm-hmm. My dad actually hired me in high school. Could tell I look really young. Got a face for the radio. In 10th grade, end of 9th grade, I was 15. And that's when I actually started with the company I'm at now. And he paid me $3 an hour to start to learn to program. And I used that money to, buy cigarettes to hang out with my friends with. And
Yeah, naturally.
naturally, you got to rebel a little bit in high
A
school.
little bit. You got to get through it. Yep.
And really, it just turned out it was something I was pretty good at. One of the first projects I was on was actually helping build some software for setting rates for government entities. And that's pretty cool to be able to work on when you're in high school. And I was able to develop these skills, and just like any industry, just a bunch of people developing skills and mastering them. And that's where I got my start. I've been able to help a lot of different companies, do a lot of different things. I think I was 20, got married really young.
Wow. Yeah.
Had my first kid, and I got laid off. We were about a 4-man company back then.
At 20, you had your first kid?
Yeah.
Boy or girl?
A girl. She's going to be 14 here in about a month.
Yeah.
She's going to be in high school next year. Scary. She's way smarter than I am, so hopefully she waits until she's older than 20.
When I said surround yourself with people smarter than you, that's not what I meant, but it works. It works for a situation for you.
Hey, that's what my dad did. Anyway, talk about a wake-up call. You talk about pain that makes you grow. Developing some skills, but I didn't really take that much of my skills very serious back then. You get laid off. You've got a family to support. I think back then you realize what rock bottom feels like when you're kind of hitting these spots. And Jordan probably doesn't remember this, but he actually sent me like $500 in the mail. Like, hey, you'll make it.
He's going to remember now.
Yeah,
I was an A2 in the Army, man. I was making it rich.
He was. Yeah. And I'm sitting here broke. My wife's going to work, and she's making a minimum wage, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, and you got more people than just you relying on you.
Well, and that's when you really feel it, when you can't support it. Mm-hmm. I made the decision, I'm going to go back to work for free. I'm going to go start figuring some of this out, digging deeper. We got our first project. I'm not going to sit in the back seat anymore. I was not. It's kind of the fake it till you make it kind of thing. And we're designing a system to, like parking meters, they're all electronic now.
Okay.
I designed systems to manage all of that. And I was 20 years old, 21 at the time probably. I had to figure it out. It was awesome. It was really where my career really started.
But didn't you do that for free, though? If I heard the story before, you went back and worked for free for a while to kind of gain the skills needed in the leadership to be a part of that project. Is that inaccurate, or?
There's some details in there that aren't quite perfect, but really I was just going in and helping, build the proposal to get this project and really to get enough work so we can feed ourselves.
Yeah, right.
And obviously you got work to feed yourself, you're going to get paid for it.
Yeah.
But that's really where my career started. Never looked back. I've grown on every project since then. Went under there. I helped a DNA testing facility scale from 300 million to $1 billion. Spent about 4 years, and we were able to, in construction, a lot of your efficiencies are localized. In other companies, you can look for scalability through software. It's not as easy to see in construction because you still have to lay pipe. Mm-hmm. But in other industries, you can automate.
So when you say scalability in that sense, how so? Through getting into different markets, or is it something to do with product development?
Yeah. So in this use case, in DNA testing, you go and collect all these samples. Mm-hmm. And the goal, and this was actually for prenatal testing, which is great. It's important to be prepared for your life. So you take these samples from expecting mothers. They would send these samples to a laboratory. Machines would actually run the analysis, but you'd have computed output. And usually you'd have some type of, medical doctor or somebody who can interpret this. We actually built tools that can interpret these test results. And the only test results that a medical doctor needs to interpret or analyze further or anything that are suggestive for these malformations. So we're able to take something that was very manual and scale it up from, things they were able to do, let's say 100 tests per day to 100 tests per second.
Yeah. Wow.
So the demand was there. They just couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
So it's just building, different integrations, different ways to scale and bring all this data in and automate different rules. So that's a scalability kind of capability, but that's not the capability is not true in every company.
Right. Yeah. That's very cool.
That's pretty amazing. What would you say, if you had any advice for companies out there that are hesitant or feel we won't benefit from this kind of software? What would you say to them? If you had to give your best sales pitch, I guess, but
yeah,
there's a tee, there's a ball on it. All you gotta do is swing.
That's right. Knock it out of the park. But how would they recognize it? I'm a young company, maybe not, the size of DDS, but even 150 to 100 people. How would you, come to recognize that and then find you guys?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I don't like to sell software for software's sake. Like you guys were talking about earlier, I like to solve problems. I actually think most companies should start as manual as they can so they can innovate on their own. Sometimes they're innovating from, hey, we're not even tracking our time appropriately. Let's do it on paper. You start to realize what your processes should be. And somebody said something earlier, like every task matters. So you think about most of the guys that we have in the field, digging holes, laying pipe. Now we need information from them. How much time did you work today? Did you do any safety inspections? All this stuff. And really it feels like a necessary evil. But it's important that they realize that if they don't track this information, what's missing downstream?
Yeah.
Every role in a company is important. Construction, you think about, you're building the earth. Well, a construction company doesn't exist unless there's a profit. No company exists if there's not a profit.
Yeah.
So you've got this guy in the field, nobody else can account for what was done except for him. Well, now he's got to do a daily report. That was done on paper. Now a lot of companies are doing this. They got an iPad in the field. Sometimes that's actually feels like you're going backwards, but he might spend an extra hour per day, which, I think there's a lot of efficiencies you can make to help him. But now there's like 17 other steps of efficiencies that he's created for the company, building bigger profits. So every task matters, every step matters, and every person matters in that entire flow of information. But it's just important that everybody knows that first.
Yeah, and you told a story earlier about the hat, and it was a really simple analogy, but it hit me, and it relates back to that same exact relationship of information gathering and what the ripple effect could be if it's gathered the wrong way or not at all. What's the hat story?
Yeah, so
I don't want to steal your thunder.
I'll give a plug because it's probably the coolest nonprofit I've heard in a long time. It's called the Fire Pit Ranch. So it's down in South Carolina where I reside. And kind of in a snapshot, there's a ministry that was formed because this guy with a huge heart for youth recognized how many boys are growing up without dads. I don't know the stats, but they're staggering in a lot of direction of like incarceration, drug use, all that kind of stuff dropping out, and suicide is on the rise. There's a lack of father figures, right? Like we all desire structure, boundaries, but we don't get it, so we rebel and all that stuff. And he recognized the amount of youth that were going to prison and just causing a lot of issues. Well, also with the workforce lacking able-bodied men joining, right? So he's like, there's an issue here. So he created a nonprofit to have leaders in the community, like construction leaders, whoever, right? Like if you have a pulse and you have a heart for others, especially boys, you go into the school and you meet once a week with them. Wow. And so a couple fathers meet for accountability with these kids, a small cohort. So they go through grade school and they go to middle school with them when it really gets kind of more impressionable. And they're trying to give them structure. And like one guy told me, he's like, the couple kids that he mentors, two in the same group. One had like a murder-suicide scenario. He's like a 12-year-old kid. Another one had both of his parents OD, like in front of them. He walked downstairs, his parents were like actively ODing and they died. It's like they have nobody, right? So like the Fire Pit Ranch was started to help, bring structure and male role models into their lives because they believe the community has to rally around these kids. That's how we win. Right. It's not the government, it's us. So anyways, they gave me this hat and it didn't fit me very good. And he's got an odd shaped head, so I figured it fit him good. So he's like, oh, it's a cool hat. I'm like, so I told him the story and he's like, dude, that's awesome. Yeah. It's nice wearing it with pride. So
yeah. Wow.
Well, that's a cool thing. I mean, one, back to the Fire Pit Ranch.
Yeah.
Fire Pit Ranch. I mean, that individual that you described, if that wasn't available to him, what path would he be on? Be in foster care, which isn't a great system to be in depending on where you're at. And what does his path in life look like then versus now? So it's a cool concept. It's really making an impact. But the hat itself, now when you put that hat on, you think of that, right? It's not just a hat. Now there's meaning behind the hat. And what we try to do here is we try and instill that same confidence and the same story and the same pride in our gear. That's why you see the gear that you see. That's why you see the hats. That's why you see the vests. So when guys are wearing it, they're putting it on, they're proud of it. They're proud of the meaning behind it, the mission that we're on together. But the ripple effect of information, Brett, that you spoke of earlier, most of our guys in the field, they probably think, I got to do this paperwork. I got to get my timesheet in because somebody needs it in the office, right? And it's so much more than that. It's the fact that is now going into another system that's then feeding another system that's then putting on this bill and then sent to this person. So the 5 steps that happen after the first step are impacted greatly if there's a delay or if the information's not right. And that's one of the reasons why we spend so much time trying to connect all the dots and get all the information in a timely manner. The problems that you guys are looking at from an efficiency standpoint, we can get a lot better as a company, but as an industry too, on how we collect data and the processes to make it more simple.
Well, that's where I think I like the fact that we have some autonomy in how we work, because every company is different. So we have to meet them where they're at in their journey. Mm-hmm. And one thing where I come at the approach of, let's meet the lowest common denominator, the guy that's doing the hardest job, that has the least amount of voice. Find that guy. Mm-hmm. And what I find is like, they don't feel like they're valued. They're not seen. It's kind of that mentality oftentimes. It's like, I pay you to do a job, shut up and do the job. And that's not wrong.
Right.
However, if we stop and meet that guy where he's at and say, hey, how can I make your life better? And you might not be able to change everything for him, but if you can help improve it some, and he feels like he's part of the decision-making process, his voice is heard. Mm-hmm. When you go and create a solution that he has to touch at some point, he's going to be a champion for it. Mm-hmm. Right. So he's going to be excited about this process. So when he has to go and input information, he's bought in.
Yeah.
Because he helped create it. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I like, is just to see that guy come alive, because, I've been that guy. I've been in the military, been the lowest guy, getting peed on, so to speak, and it sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, it does suck. But you know what? At the same time, everybody plays a role. Like you can say, go do the job, and you're just here to do the job, and you're hired from the neck down and all that. That's all that's said. But the truth is, everybody truly is needed to make this thing work. And from a brand new laborer that's only been here for a week to people that have been here for 10 years, because if one of those things stop, somebody needs to do the job. Absolutely. It's physical work that we're doing. Yeah. So if somebody's not there, somebody else needs to step in and do it. And that's either somebody else that setting aside another task that needs to get done to go make that up, or somebody new that you got to bring in and then start all over again. I think every industry says that, of like, everybody matters in what they do. But in our industry, because of the physical work that we actually do, it truly does hit home.
Absolutely. Going back to the original question that kind of started this, kind of part of the conversation about where would you start, right? If you're 5-man shop or, $500 billion job, like, it doesn't matter where you're at right now. It's where you're trying to go. So like, I try to ask the leaders, like, where are you going this year? Like, where are you trying to grow to? What's the company's vision? And then make sure, like, what do our processes say about that? Are they going to align with that or not? Mm-hmm. So start there, like, where it's actually going to matter for leadership. And then do your own research. Like, a lot of times what I see is a lot of self-referencing happening in this industry. So you go to a conference, you have these different groups online, and it's like, wait, what are you doing? Hey, that tool must work because you're using it, so you go and adopt it.
Right.
Well, what I would say is, maybe it might be awesome. And I'm not going to downplay any tool. There's a lot of phenomenal off-the-shelf solutions that you should look into, like, seriously. But if you don't understand the very archaic process that you're doing, very manual, you don't know what you're trying to solve for. So like, my thought is, do your own research, walk the process every single step, write it down if you have to, even down a pen and paper, just so you make sure someone understands it. Because what happens a lot of times is, like, you hire a guy and he gets trained, never asks questions. And if he does, he probably gets slapped on the wrist, right? Mm-hmm. Just do it.
Right.
So you never knew why you're doing what you're doing. So my thought is, understand why you're doing what you're doing, do it if you're told to, sure, but then also, respectfully ask questions against it. Mm-hmm. To hopefully understand, maybe there's a better way to do it. We can disrupt what we're doing, respectfully, right? Do your own due diligence, understand the process and why you're doing it. So when you go and look for a technology to, go through the digital transformation processes, now you know what you're trying to solve for and why. And then usually the implementation is a lot more successful.
Yeah, start at the end.
Yeah.
Right? Start at the end.
Even within that, sometimes it's actually good to understand innovation is more of an evolution as opposed to, a complete step. Some of the best companies I've worked with, they have realized the actual efficiencies and have a culture of innovation and technology. They'll take a process that's maybe on paper and they'll actually start with something simple like Excel or Google Sheets. And let's test this out. Can we capture this information? Can we use it for the next step? And a lot of times we'll come in and help them get to the next step from there. Mm. But they've already got the culture of innovation at the company.
Yeah.
They're evolving through their technology problems.
Yeah.
Not even just the technology problems, the system, the data, the information problems. I'm not even going to call it data because it's really about what information do I need from the field? How do I get it? Is there ways to shortcut this? Is there ways to evolve past this? And what you get is you get a lot of people, even in the field, thinking more innovatively because they're working through the problems with the team. Mm-hmm. They're not just like, hey, you guys all have to use this app.
Yep.
You guys all felt the problem. You guys all understood the problem because everybody, especially, as we were talking about earlier, if everybody understands why every piece of information is important, everybody's going to be looking at, well, how can I get this to you?
Yeah, 100%. Get the full scope.
Oh, yeah.
The buy-in is huge. I mean, we know that just from our training side. Thankfully, our leaders have, I'd like to brag and say, some of the best buy-in in the game. They know that, what level of training we do here and what we put back into them through our leadership summits.
That's some
and
of the
everything
best.
like
The
that.
best.
Yeah, no doubt. There you go. I like the correction. We're starting to wrap up here. How can companies out there get a hold of you guys, or what does that process look like, you and your company, to kind of come in?
Well, the company name is Xeratec Software Development, so that's spelled Xeratec. But we're on LinkedIn, so if you looked up, I'm sure it'll be in the description or something. But Brett or Jordan Hillstrom, we're on LinkedIn, and honestly, for us, like we're not a sales forward company. Like we want to just get to know people and understand what problems are. And we're not always the right solution right now.
Yeah.
But we do want to be a sounding board, because we understand that sometimes you think about custom software, it's like, dude, that's way outside of my realm. No way. It's too expensive, and I have no idea what to do. No idea where to start. So like kind of the custom software has been kind of almost a standoff for a company, or it's kind of one of those scenarios. They give the Heisman to us. But what I would say is we are a problem solving company. And at the end of the day, we'll have conversations and we'll tell you, you're probably not the right time. But here's some suggestions to think about.
Right.
We are building a tool right now that we're still figuring out how we're going to kind of deploy and use it. But it's hopefully going to be more of either a very cheap or free tool. But an idea is to start putting all your applications onto a map view where you can start seeing how your processes are connected and kind of visualize them. So that's a tool that I'm really hopeful that it can help give some very easy access to where the future of your digital transformation journey could go. So it gives you a good starting point. So that's a great segue into, you don't have to think about custom. You don't have to think about buying anything from us. This is a way you can start charting your own journey and be in control of it. Because so often I feel like companies are being pushed around by big tech, and I think that game's got to stop. Right. You got to take control of your ecosystem and your technology adoption. Like, that's your world. You're paying a lot of money. You should control what it does for you, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think to your comment, when technology is brought up or new software is brought up, you automatically think big tech and big dollars, big investment, big time, big effort. And you guys are proving it doesn't need to be that way. I know we're coming up on time, but I don't want to miss this. So Jordan, give us a little glimpse into your lens. Like, who are you as a person? How'd you start? I know you're a retired Army, so there's probably things you can't talk about, which is cool. But give us a little summary of you.
Yeah, so I did 3 tours with 2nd Ranger Battalion, had the time of my life, and I actually don't like to hear thank you for your service. Like, this is a big, big boat. You all got to be paddling in the right direction, right? Mm-hmm. So like, we're all doing valuable things for society. I just did a job. People die in construction all the time, right? Like, the risk we give is just as valuable. People are people, right? So I did that, and I was a cop for a while, married to an amazing woman named Amanda. We're foster parents. We adopted our boys. We just love people. We love to serve, and I don't have like a next 10-year vision laid out. I'm just like, put my hands out today, and how do I steward what I have today wisely? Yeah. And we love what we do, and we get along. My brother and I get along great. We get to go on work trips together and have these kind of conversations, and it's sometimes almost surreal, like I'm not even working, because I just love this kind of stuff. So we're in South Carolina. I got 2 kids and about 30 acres. We're just out doing the redneck thing in South Carolina.
Nice.
Boys and girls, or
2 boys?
2 boys.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, hey, I enjoyed the heck out of our time today. It certainly gave me some new perspective, that I didn't have before. I was excited to have you guys come up here to Rochester. Appreciate you taking the time. And I know you don't want to hear it, but I do appreciate your service. We all do.
Yeah, no doubt.
And
well, thank you, Mike. I got a text this morning that he
I tend to do that.
He might have a podcast ready for us, so I appreciate you guys sitting down.
We did a Christmas video this year, and I let everybody know the morning of. That's
the way to do it, though. You get a good blooper reel.
Yeah, I know. I did get a good blooper reel out of it, but got some candid feedback.
No, it's been having the opportunity to meet with people. Like, you never know what you're going to get out of conversations. But like, when you have real actual dialogue about what's going on, and you can pull like the veil back a little bit and have actual conversations, it's a blessing. It really is, because we push each other, and that's what we need, right?
Yeah.
It's not me versus you. I'm not like a vendor pushing, like selling you. It's like, no, like, we're in it together. Yeah. And if we had more conversations like this and pushed each other, because I don't know your world, but I also know I've dealt with a lot of bad practices and good. So I can give some value back to you.
Yeah, right.
But are we willing to have real conversations to push each other?
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for that.
And are you willing to go where the information is too? That's out in the field, the guys with dirt on their boots, girls with dirt on their boots, and really see it, feel it, experience it, and then build from there.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, those are the folks that are keeping the fire lit, right? So that's who we need to have right in front of our minds when we're making these kinds of decisions.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Brett and Jordan, thank you guys. Very much appreciate it. Our listeners out there, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe anywhere you get podcasts. And
yeah, we'll put Brett and Jordan's information in the podcast episode. You can see Xeratec on there if you're interested. We'll wrap it up.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right. See ya.